Well, hello, beautiful artisans. Welcome to Echo Art with Carmella-T. So, let me turn this way. I am walking as I am getting ready to do a video for you. And we are going to I'm going to talk to you about a hat. Now, some people are really super interested in making a Boro Sashiko hat, and I want to make a few as gifts for a few friends of mine. And I'm going to talk to you about how to prepare for that, and then we're going to get ready for other projects. But I'll talk to you about how to prepare today. So if you're new to the channel, we create with all recycled materials, fabrics, and supplies, and it's our way to give the earth a little hug. And if you're coming back, thank you so much for coming back. And I love your comments, your suggestions, your shared projects that you have shared with me. Okay, so I'm just getting this table coordinated, and I'm going to put the camera down there. So you're probably saying, well, where are you today, Carmella? So I am up at the Milton Artists Guild, and so I'm going to turn this, no, I guess I'll just leave it like that. I guess everybody can see. Okay. So yeah, we are up at the Guild, and I just went over, I guess I can show you too. Let's do that first. I'll show you my table before we even get started with the video. So let me just turn this way. Okay. So we'll go over to my table because we haven't been here in a while, and a few things were sold, and then a few things were added, and I'm just going to turn this way so you can see my hats. These are all my hats here. Okay, and my bears. And then of course you see my book, one of my books, and then my other book is over here, The Bridge of Life. So anyway, that's my table. And on TikTok, I go through the whole gallery. So if you go over there, now the thing is, I was kind of having to hold the camera a certain way as I was going through, just as I am now, because I didn't have the dual camera on. So anyway, with that, here we are, and I'm very happy to be up here. And okay, I think that's good. So, and we've got good weather. So yeah, so for those of you who have been saving your scraps, and you're like, you know, Carmella, I want to do a Boro Sashiko hat, but it intimidates me because it is so, sorry, I'm just putting this over here, and because it seems so complicated. So I'm going to tell you a couple of keys, a couple of tricks, a couple of really important tips that is going to help you do your hat a lot easier. Now, number one, and I may have to sip this coffee as we go along, as you know, but first I just want to say that I am so happy to be back up here at the Guild. I have missed it. I miss being in my art community, and but I've had some other things that needed super duper focus, right? So but with that, I am so happy to be here today and sharing with you. So for those of you who are interested in making a hat, the first thing you probably want to do that make your life so much easier is get a model head. Get a styrofoam model head. Now these, I noticed, are being made a little bit smaller than they used to be. They were made a little bit closer to the average size of of a head, whether it's female or male. Hello there, welcome. Hi. Thank you for being with me today. If you have any questions in the chat, just let me know. I can see it and I'll answer right here, today. And if you think of any questions after, just send them on over to me and I'm happy to answer. But yeah, these model heads are now being made like 19 and a half inches. So the average size of a woman's head is about 21 and a half, 22. And a small is about 20. And the larger is about 22 and a half. So for a male, generally, it is about 22, maybe and a half to 23, sometimes 24, extra large. So, but anyway, with that, you want to keep in mind that you're using the model head as kind of to hold, look, I'm going to put this on here to hold your hat, okay? To kind of get an idea, and you could put it on your own head, right? But you kind of get an idea what it's going to look like. And I particularly love this hat. This is, it doesn't have, yeah, thank you. I know, right? It is this is a wow hat. It totally is. Because look at it. There's lots and lots of the smaller fabrics and then they're going all different directions, which is what I wanted to do. These are seams. This is a pocket. This is the waist seam, the waist part of a belt part of the jeans, and then this is a front pocket. This is a tiny little front pocket, and this is part of the front part of the jeans, and then the top part. For those of you who are going to get ready, let me show you. I'm just going to put this to the side for a second. Put this to the side over here. And then I'll talk to you about what you need to make your hats. Now, the reason I'm kind of going over this, for those of you who have been with the channel, you've probably been with me maybe a few times on these projects. But what happens is a whole lot of time goes by, and then I just keep jumping on here, like making the hat. And then people are like, well, how are you doing it? So that's why I'm sharing that today. So if you get the styrofoam head, it will help you to build your hat. But first, I'm going to show you fabrics you want to get ready and materials that you want to have. Okay, so first of all, scrap fabrics. Whether you are making your hat all denim or you're using a cotton or a different type of base, that's what you want to make sure you have for the round part. This is simply a circle that is about a 9-10 inch diameter, and that's what you want to be able to have, is like this, okay? And traveling up here today, it wasn't a long travel, but guess what? I forgot my tape measure. So with that, this is about a 9-10 inch circle, diameter circle, okay? And so I'm just gonna build a hat for you before we do the lining on this one, and then we'll do the lining on this one, and I'll show you how to do that. So to build a hat, okay? So you get your model head. And again, be careful not to measure it according to this head, because the model heads nowadays are way too small. They're just not coming in the same size as a human head as they used to. But look, I have all these circles. Look, I cut this out. That has a pocket. This has a pocket. These are all denim. These are going to be my crown or the base, okay? This one, I cut it and you can see the pocket opens up right there. That's okay because we're going to sew that. This is scrap fabric. So with that, I'm going to select one. I really like this. Now, I'm going to tell you the denim I use primarily. Um, look, this has a stretch to it. So this has spandex in it. The denim I use primarily doesn't. It's more like this. There's no stretch. Okay? Or like this. This is more of just cotton. This is probably 100% cotton, this one. This has spandex in it. A lot of the jeans today will be, maybe 30–40% spandex, some of them. But anyway, you just take the front, put it on the head. But again, 9–10 inch diameter. Okay, and then pin it. You're going to pin it. Okay, now to build your hat, you can either do this one or two ways. You can be very strategic if you're a sewist. A lot of sewists and quilters like to be very strategic and like to measure and like that. If you're going to do it like I'm doing it in just kind of a free fall, a creative free fall, you do it like that. So that's how I'm going to show you. I don't have a tape measure with me. So with that, I'm just going to work right now with the circle I have. Oh, this is the other thing I wanted to show you right here. This is a scrap fabric that I had just sewn just a few symmetrical stitching on, and I didn't go through. I just sewed it. I worked within the pocket, you see? And so you can do that too. And that's, you can do that. You can pick lots of different fabrics or denim pieces or whatever you want and do different sashiko stitching designs. So I would say if you're just starting to learn how to do this, take a piece, maybe like this. This is a nice rectangle, and just pin it. I'm going to turn this towards me for a minute. And I'm just going to pin it to the fabric, to the circle. Now you can pin it over the circle, on top of it, okay? And people are like, well, Carmella, if you're working with no tape measure right now, how do you know what you're doing? Well, when I get home, I will double check everything. However, here, because I'm working with a 10-inch or 9-inch diameter circle, this is about 10 actually, so I'm working with that. I know that going around with these fabrics, that's going to be the diameter that I'm working with. So, okay, now I got that pinned. Now I'm going to pin another piece. I'm going to pin this piece right here, the one that we did a little sashiko stitching. And you're like, well, Carmella, you're not cutting it. No, I'm just going to leave it like that for now. We're working with scrap fabrics, and we're giving the earth a little hug and trying not to make more. So now what I'm doing, I just want to show this to you here. Look, I'm overlapping this piece that I'm putting on with the piece, with the panel I just pinned on to the crown. I am not worried about right now the bottom part of it or this one being perfectly even. Okay, I'm not worried about that right now. I just want to see, I want to get oriented to my fabrics. I want to get oriented to my design. I want to get oriented to how I'm piecing this together. And I'm doing this in the rawest sense of the word. So this piece, yeah, I might pin that. A lot of times I don't pin this part until later. Now, something I want to point out to those of you who are out there and you're like using a lot of pins because maybe this is the first time you're doing it. You want to be really super mindful that these pins, that the head of the pin and the pin itself, in my opinion, no pun intended, but is large enough so that you see it and you don't lose it in your fabric. So, because look, when you put this one over here, see, look, it's covering up the head of that pin. Now, you're going to see it and you're going to pull it out and it's going to be fine. However, you could lose it for a little bit and then you could get really hurt while you're sewing. Okay, so what I do is I just pull it out. I make sure I can see the head of this pin. For me, that's just super duper important. You want to be able to see your pins. Now, I know sewists out there are saying, oh gosh, Carmella, we already know that. I'm just saying for a little tip. This is a good coffee. I made this up at the Guild here. Okay, now, so look, I just want to hold this up, and I'm taking my time with this because I want people, I want artisans, I want the creatives to understand how I'm doing this. When I look at a piece like this, I love this. I love it, I love it. Why do I love it? Because it's asymmetrical. This is not even. Do I need to make it closer to it? These are not even. I kind of like them not being totally even. However, this is a wide gap. Maybe I leave it like that, maybe I don't. When do I make that decision? I don't know. Probably towards the end of this building of it. Now look, I have these other pieces. Now the pieces that I grabbed them pretty much on the way out the door in my scrap bin. So the one thing I didn't bring with me, and I wish I did, was all my little scrap fabrics. But I said, you know what, we're just beginning the hat today together, and so this will give you an idea. You just work with your larger pieces. So check this out. Check out this piece. Okay, look, that's ripped. Look, the pocket, isn't that awesome? Okay, so let's turn this and figure out, is this long enough for me to even consider? Oh, look. Yeah, so this is perfect. I love the two-tone. I've got a white denim that I'm working with, and then if you look in the, have a good day. And then if you look at the inside of the pocket is a darker denim, and then look, this is an indigo, that's indigo, and I'm loving this. So I love the two-tone denims, and so what I'm going to do, there is no perfect way to do this. I like to say there is no right and there is no wrong, because guess what? There's creativity. So, and it's your creativity, it's your masterpiece. So I get questions like that. They're like, well, Carmella, I want to make that hat the way you made it. And each of these hats are totally unique. There's no way I, myself, even though I made this hat, am going to be able to make another hat exactly like this. I will use the structure and the techniques, but I will not get a hat exactly like this. And the reason is because these pieces, and look at the top part too, these pieces are all unique to what was available. They're scrap fabrics that just were available. So we're going to pin this, and again, being mindful of the head of the pin and the pin itself. And I'm just going to move that over a little because I want to, in this case, I'm thinking aesthetics, I'm thinking art, creativity. I want this seam to show because, look, I could either say I want the diagonal angle of this to show, or I want the seam. So let me just test it for a moment. I want to see how that looks. Okay. Personally, I don't want to cover this up too much, and I love the seam aesthetic. So I am going to put this underneath. I'm just going to put it under for design. And I kind of like to bring this up a little because I like the little angle that that scrap piece is on. Just, it's, you know what they say, like it's in the detail, like the design is in the detail, or you walk into a beautiful house and they say it's all in the detail, the small things. And it is the same when you are building your designs, whatever it is, even in your paintings, even if you're drawing a bird, how you do the details of those feathers and the beak and the eyes. I did a whole series of birds, so I learned and this was like 30 years ago, I did all the Vermont birds. I've shared this with you, but those birds, their eyes are shaped differently. The feathers and the design, all those details is what makes that bird, okay? It's the design of the bird. So if I ignore those and just kind of bluntly put just an eye, let's say for the great blue heron, and I'm not following let's say the anatomy or the physiology of that beautiful bird, I'm going to lose that effect. It's the same when you're creating. If you're not paying attention to what you feel is a beautiful design, you're going to lose it. You will lose anything that is there that can make your piece reflect your beautiful creativity, and that brings out your masterpiece. So this one, I'm just going to keep it on top of the crown. You see, I'm going to bend it like that. You see, it's on top. So I am tucking in the crown there. And you're probably saying, well, Carmella, you're going too far over. But see, I'm not really, because look, I'm going about 1/8 of an inch, about 1/8. If I wanted to, yes, I could go 1/2 inch. I could actually cover as much as that crown and use it as a guide as much as I want. However, you want to remember that the hat will fall differently. If you're going to go way up here near the tip of the crown, it's going to fall, it will fall more like a bucket hat. Maybe that's what you want, or maybe you do want a point, and however you want it. You come out here and you're going to get most of that crown will be on the crown of your head, on the top of your head. So anyway, your experience and just kind of doing this again and again helps you to see, it helps you understand the different parts of the hat. In crochet, you have a crown, but many times it's maybe 7.5, 8 inches. You usually have an inch to stretch. And so you always want to consider that. So, but then again, with crochet, you make your crowns differently. You're kind of working your whole of the hat from the crown. This, we're piecing it together. We're piecing this, and I'm loving this, I'm going to be honest. Now this styrofoam head right here that I have, I took off my table, and I'll be bringing this home with me, and I meant to bring up the other styrofoam head. I'll have to come back up with the other one. So I'm just turning this and just pinning little by little. And your seams, now some of the seams that you get with your denims are very easy to sew through. But remember, the seam is quilted, so it's an extra thick layer. That's an extra layer. So sometimes they're using a very thin batting, or they're using a very thin cotton to create the seam. Other times they're creating these seams and they're very knotty, they're very difficult. So you want to maybe sew over them, or you want to have at least an industrial sewing machine or a needle. Now I do not have an industrial sewing machine. I have a regular sewing machine, but I do use the denim needles. Okay, so look at this. We're almost done pinning this hat. And I've done other hats here with you, so some of you are familiar with how ridiculous you think the hat might look at the beginning. And then you're like, well, how do I get to this? And I will say, stitch by stitch. No. You do get it stitch by stitch. You do get there piece by piece. I'm not trying to be facetious. That's how you get there. So now see here, I'm coming to another point where I'm going to be, if I go like that, I'm covering up the pin. So that's why I keep pointing that out. It's like take the pin out, take them out if you have to, and then you can pin, I'm going to take this one out, you can pin all three of your pieces together. It'll take you a minute. It's taken me a minute, but there we go. You can do it that way, and if you feel like you're losing your angle, just take the pin and put them like I did here and just stick them like that until you can get them pinned together. Okay, so let's just take a look at this for a moment. Look. I'm going to be honest, I love the asymmetrical coming down. I didn't plan it. And you guys see this all the time. I don't plan these things, and it just happens. It's like a design is just handed to you. So, okay, look. Now, I really do like that like that right now, and I'm just going to leave it. Now, to begin sewing, what I do, because look, this is all pieced. Hi, how are you? And one of my artist friends just walked in. So this is all pieced together, and with different size fabrics, and it's just barely holding together as you take a look at this. And you're probably thinking, well, Carmella, look, right there, you've got that seam. You can add another seam here. You can cut it, and yes, you can make it even, and we can. Now we could go out on a limb, and we can get out of the box a little bit, and we can be a little bit more creative, and we can let the asymmetrics kind of take over. So what I like to do is, when I'm contemplating a design, I like to start sewing, at least get my crown sewed to my pieces. So I like to get that done. And then the parts that I like absolutely totally adore, I like to come down and start sewing them. And this one over here I would focus on because I love this. Now, I have so much more to say about this, but let me take a moment here and just let you take that in, because we have more to say about this. We are at the beginning stages of this hat. So for this moment, I'm simply going to put the hat down. I want to show you something. Okay, we're going to leave it like that. Okay, so a couple things. Let me just, for those of you who are like, well, what is the equipment I need, Carmella? So what you need either a sashiko needle, but you don't have to use sashiko needle. I have sashiko needles. I'm usually using my embroidery needle. Okay, so the idea is you want a needle that, so look, this is my sashiko. This is one of my sashikos. Do you know how I know how it is? Because at the tip of it, it's a golden, it's not coming up on camera. But the eye of it, look at the eye, it's wider than an average regular sewing needle. And it's actually gold from the top to this point right here. So I can pick this out. I know that's my sashiko needle. It's one of a set that I have. But I'm going to put that over here so I can use, and it's sharp. Can I just tell you something? These are so ridiculously sharp. It's like, now, over here I have an embroidery needle. You see the eye of it? Let me just turn it. See the eye? So the eye is wide. Why do I want a wide eye? Because, whoops, sorry about that. Because you want to, let me just take a sip of this. Because you want to be able to use your crochet lacy thread. Do you have to use crochet lacy? No, you can use sashiko thread. You can find sashiko thread online in many different places, and you can buy it. What's the difference? The sashiko thread, it is wound differently. In my opinion, it's softer. But this, why am I using these? Because these are scrap. These I got at the thrift shop. I have an entire bin of these. Bye, Rel. Have a good day. I have an entire bin, like, you know, I have at home a bin. So I use these, and I'm just going to, this one's a little, oh, let me tell you something too about these. The lacy crochet threads are varying weights. This one is thicker than this one. So this one, for me, I automatically know right now, this one is easier for me to thread, like just much easier. And this needle is much, because it's a wider eye, I'm gonna be able to thread this super quickly. See? Okay, see? See how fast I did that? And I don't even have the right glasses on today. I need 150 and I've got like 125. These are the readers. You know what I'm saying? You put on the lesser magnification, it's a little more difficult to see, especially when you're threading. So, okay, so that's what you need there, okay? You need the embroidery needle or sashiko needle and or whatever thread you're going to use. Are these an absolute? No. If you want to use regular sewing thread, you can. What's the difference? The difference is you're not going to see the visible stitching as readily, okay, for example, as you see here in this hat, and the strength of a regular thread, it's not going to hold, in my opinion, the denim thicker pieces as well as you'd want it. Now, what are the pros of using a regular thinner thread? You'll be able to sew through the seams a little easier with a smaller, sharper needle, a thinner thread, and you'll be able to mess around or play around or experiment, let's say, with your visible stitching or sashiko stitching. Okay, so let's put that over there for the minute. Now, a couple things to consider before, at the end of this video, we're going to do the lining. By the way, it won't take long, but that's why I'm waiting till the end. So a couple things to consider. You have your denim hat now. You're kind of playing around with some sashiko stitching. So now you're like, well, wait a minute. What if I want to put designs? What if I have all this scrap fabric and I want to put some designs on my denim? Am I going to sew these together first and then add the fabrics? And I'm gonna say either or, because I've done both. What is easier? I'm gonna be honest. Taking your fabrics and designing, let's say this piece, a piece of denim, designing a piece of scrap denim before you put it on. What's the con to that? What is the problem to that? The problem is this. Once you go and you're starting to piece your hat together, let's say part of and you don't really realize this at the time, unless you're going to draw out your design, which is, some people can get very technical and they will do that. However, you risk hiding, and maybe it's hiding a really beautiful part of your sashiko stitching, your fabric stitching. For example, let's say I'm looking for some smaller fabrics here. Okay, let's say I want to put this purple on here. So here's a purple. And now I want to, This is actually part of another design I had put together and took apart. But let's say I want these 3 pieces on, and I really love these pieces, okay? So I go ahead and I do my visible stitching. You see this piece right here, it comes over here, and this one kind of comes over here. So when you're placing your panel onto your hat, and you know what I'm gonna say, you're placing it on, and now all of a sudden, part of this design that you just fell in love with is going to be covered, or it's just not going to show right. Let's say this is already pinned, but let's go over this way. Okay, so let's say, because once you do the stitching, the effect of it, well, that one actually it would show, that's fine, but you're at risk of that when you do your pieces together. And what can happen, I know from experience, is I've taken all my pieces and all of a sudden I start either cutting them, or I'm tucking this piece underneath another panel. I'm not liking it. It doesn't have the same effect. Now the other thing you can do, and I've done this too, is design your panel and then bring your pieces together like this. And sewists, quilters will know, are familiar with this. You can put them like that, and you know, so they're back to back, sew them that way, or you can turn them in and sew them that way. So then you have kind of that effect going on. So anyway, yes, you can do them both ways. You can design your panel first, and or you can sew your panels on, come back and add your fabrics. Either or. And I will tell you, either of those ways, whichever way you do this, it will create a unique effect. There's no way you're going to get the exact same effect with using these different methods. So with that, this is as far as we're going to go today for this particular hat. And to answer the question, some people are saying, well, Carmella, that hat is covering her face. It is because the crown is not tilted back. So, and we'll show you that in the next one. So this is as far as we go on this one today. We will have a part 2. So I'm going to take this apart because I need this model head to show you how to place your lining, how to do it. It's super easy. Okay, so this I'm just going to gently take off, and I'm going to leave it like that. This piece fell, that's okay. Okay, so anyway, yeah, you can take as much of your fabrics and just play around with them. And we'll have a little bit, we'll have a whole video on the fabrics in different ways, again, that you can design. Okay, so we'll save that as another video. So now here you have your hat. Now I'm not sewing my lining on today because I actually want to sit and do a little stitching on this. Just maybe another hour, that's all I want, and I'm going to mess around with it. But this is how you do it. You're going to take the hat and you're going to turn it inside out. And what you will do, we're not going to do this right now, but what you would do is take, let me move this for a minute. So take the inside, like all of your tails. You want to have your tails all long. See how that tail ended up underneath the machine stitching? And you'll see it ends up underneath your sashiko stitching. Okay, see that? That's good. That's what you want. You want these tails to be caught and interlocking with the entire piece. So, am I going to go through and cut them? No. What I typically would do is take a a wider-eyed, I would take a darning needle. I don't have one with me now, but it's very wide-eyed, right? So I can very easily and quickly thread my tail, and it's very short. Your darning needle is short, and then it will allow me to weave through all of those stitches. So you want to lock it up and tie it. So, okay, once you do all of that, then put your hat on your model head, put it on the model head, okay, and then you're gonna take a piece, look, this is a piece of fabric, okay, this is the fabric we're using, so you wanna be mindful that the bright side or the design side that you want to show when you turn the hat back inside out is showing, so it's the pretty side. There's a couple ways to do this. The main way is you're going to drape your fabric over your piece, and then, and I'm not going to do this right now because I have other things I want to do first with this hat, but you're going to cut, leaving a couple of inches below your edge of your hat. Okay, so once you do that, okay, so you leave it on the model and just kind of pin down your model so things don't move on you, and this just makes it so much easier. It's ridiculous. And then you're going to, there's couple different ways, probably even more, but you can fold the part. This is all cut, let's say. Well, I guess I could cut this part. I could cut this part, and then that way I can show you a little easier. So I'm holding it up. See how long that is? So I'm just going to simply cut it from here. I don't want to cut it too short, because if I do, then I don't have much fabric to work with. I'll put it down here for a moment. Now, is it going to make a huge difference if it's not super even? You want to try to get it even, but if it's not super even, it's okay because you're folding it under. And, okay, see, this is still really long. So, you take a few minutes. It helps me actually to hold this up. That way I can see better. Okay, so now we've got it kind of draped down, and so what you're going to do is fold it. Now when you fold it up against the hat, you want to think a couple different things. You want to think, do I really want this right down to the edge here of the brim or the edge of my hat, or do I want it to come up a little bit like this? Now, I like it to come up a little bit. Now, sometimes with my creative hats, I do not have a seam even all the way around. I just don't, because I am making a creative hat. I'm making an art eco-friendly hat. So as I'm going around, so I'll pin it, I'll pin that, and let's keep it up like that, okay? Now, what are the pros to keeping it up like that? It's being able to stitch it easier, because the seam part of it is a little thicker. Now, if I do bring it down to the seam all the way down, I could do whip stitching around, which I totally love. I love to switch back and forth between whip stitching and your running stitch, your running sashiko visible stitch. So anyway, I'm going to go around. Let's see if we run out of the seam. I just want to show you how I handle that. So I'm just looking at the camera as I go around. If I think these are too long as I'm going around, I simply will trim them. But you see here, you're going to get a nice fold, and I happen to like that, so that's how I leave that. And you can see my seam is still there. So I'm doing this a little quickly. My voice is echoing because of the music. We have music in the background. And I have such a big mouth, so. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so there's the seam. Okay, and you see the fold. There's the fold. And here's the seam. So this is turning into a long video, everyone. If there's anything that you were waiting for me to say that I didn't say, just let me know, and I'm happy to answer you in the comments, in the email, or to do a video for you. And you know, that's why I wrote the book, because poor Sashiko, to answer all of the common questions I would get on that. Okay, so here the seam kind of changes, okay? And I'm going to whip stitch right here. You see the whip stitching? And this really isn't a seam anymore, not like we were working with. So I just am mindful to keep my folding, my hem, even with what I'm with that particular seam. So, okay, if you want to use a tape measure to do that, you certainly could. For me, I just eye it, and because I like the effect of that. So this has to actually come up a tiny bit. See that? Because look what happened here. I kind of went down, and now I'm flush. I'm flush with the edge, and I don't want that. I want it to be just like that. That's better. So anyway, that's pretty much how you do that. And this is a little thicker I'm running into right now. Right here is a lot of fabric. So what I do is I work with the top part of it. And I may need a couple of pins. Look at the pin bent. That's okay. This is part of working with it. You figure out what works. So you work in the top part of your fabric as much as you can. Look, that one bent too. So I'm going to have to turn this towards me. And then I'll show you. Okay. Oh yeah, I can see now. I couldn't see in that. Okay, so look what I did. I took the pin and I put it in on an angle because it was bending every time I was trying to go straight, because there's thicker parts of the denim right here. But my goal is I want to keep this aligning just above. It's about maybe a half an inch above the edge of the hat. So because the seam changed, I'm paying attention to staying even. So that's how I'm going about this. Oh, look at that. You could almost leave it like that. But anyway, once you're done, just to show you, okay, once you're done, you stitch around your edge, and you can go a couple of times around, but you turn it, you're going to turn your hat. I just want to see something too. I want to see how that flows, actually. Oh, I do like that coming down like that, but I'm not going to leave it like that. But this is, look, you see? That's going to be the lining. So anyway, I did that little bit of a rough cut a little bit quickly, and what I'm going to do is take my time and finish that. I may go back and make sure that these seams are nice and even and folded, but that's basically how you do it. So with that, that's kind of a interesting, anyway. With that, I hope everybody has a beautiful day. And if you're making your hat and you want to share it, let me know, or you have questions, let me know. And thank you for being with me today. Thank you for your comments. And we'll see you in the next one. Oh, keeps doing that.